Hey everyone, my name's Kai Mays. I'm a photographer and I took this photo. For this video, I'll be going over how I took that photo, how I edited it, how I came back a year later, re-edited it, and then printed it off. Before we get into how I edited the photo, first let me tell you guys how I took the photo. I chose a Canon M50 with a kit lens to take this photo. Now, by all means, it's not a great camera, but it got the job done. Set it up for a long exposure, and boom. Photo. Picture done. Yeah. Amazingness, right? No. Raw file is atrocious. And that's where Lightroom comes into play. Let's look at the raw picture first. Now let's look at my first edit. Now this is the first photo I ever taken. So the edits are going to be, well, bad because this is the first time I've ever edited a photo. As you can tell, it is way too dark. It's way too just grainy texture, like awfulness, right? And let's get into my settings. So for the photo, the first round edit, I had the exposure underexposed, not too much contrast, highlights were down, shadows were up, whites were down, blacks were up. This is what my curve looked like. So kind of just regular S curve. Temperature was cold. As you can tell, it is very blue and purple. Not a whole lot of tints of orange or pink. Now colors is really where you can get into editing a sunset photo, right? This is where you can make it look good, bad potentially. You know, this is where you have some room to play with. My reds were all the way saturated to pink, and well, the hue was all the way pink, saturation was up, luminance was dark, orange turned to pink, aquas turned more to like purpley blue, blues kind of stayed the same, except the saturation went up. And now we're moving on to the effects, and this is why the photo looks so bad. The texture was all the way up. Now, the texture means more grain and you know, more things are popped more, and that's why these trees look so just tree, like you can see every branch, and in some cases that might be cool. In this case, it's not. It's just supposed to be a dreamy sunset. It's not supposed to be super harsh, and that's the biggest thing that is contributing to how harsh the landscape looks. Clarity was up a little bit, dehazed it a little bit, added some vignette. And sharpening 100% because back then I thought sharpening was the best thing in the world. Noise reduction, color noise is down as well. But this is not a great first round edit. Now, I've never edited a photo and never used Lightroom before. Cropped it in a little bit, added some, some exposure stuff to the water, which I'm pretty surprised that I did. I didn't think I knew how to use any of these settings back then. But like I said, first run edit, honestly not too great. I wasn't really expecting much, you know, to look back a year ago and see an amazing edit. But that's when a re-edit comes into play, right? You take a photo, you might like it, you go back, you find that your edit was absolutely atrocious, like me, and this is your opportunity to take your time, know what you've learned over a year, in my case, and apply those things, come out with a better edit, and that's when you end up with a better photo. Moving on to the next photo. This was a re-edit in the summer. Took a crack at it again. This time I did a better job with the trees, as you can tell. Let me go down to the texture. The texture's down, clarity's up. You know, they don't look as harsh. You can't see every limb at the top of the tree, which is definitely better. That was not the style, you know, all the texture is not the style you should be going for in a photo like this. Highlights are down, shadows are down. And that's one thing that I think was awful, is that you could see almost the grass because the shadows were up so much and the black was up so much, right? And that, in this photo where you have a sky reflecting off of a lake, you really want to highlight the sky and the lake, not the in-between areas, right? Simple S curve, temperatures up a little bit. Colors here, less blue, more orange. So getting in that sunset vibe. Yeah, this one's kind of self-explanatory. Not too bad of a re-edit over the summer. The one thing I do like about this is that I did play with more of these settings. I tried to use more of my knowledge of Lightroom to give this photo the pop that it needed. Now, it's not amazing by any means, you know. As you'll see in my last photo, the edits I did were pretty much the same. I'll have about the same on this side, but they're definitely better, and that just comes with experience of learning how to use a Lightroom. But yeah, overall, not a bad photo. Definitely by no means amazing. The one thing that really bugs me in this photo is how vibrant this light is over here. It takes up, I mean, it looks like the sun if the trees weren't there. Like, it does not need to be that bright, and I think I tried to dim it in one of these. Nope. I didn't even try to dim it at all. So that's definitely one thing that's going to change in the next photo, as you'll see. But critiquing it, not too bad, definitely better. The clouds are less grainy, more soft and smooth. Same with the trees. The tree line is definitely looking a lot better. As you can just see the comparison between the two. Yeah, like harsh clouds, harsh trees. I mean, just all of that grain does not make the photo look that good. Now, sunsets are supposed to be soft, dreamy, light, you know, show a different vibe than dark, damp, and disgusting, like this photo is. Yeah, and it just, night and day, you know, kind of a joke there, but not really, I guess. It looks a lot better, but it's not the finished product, and at this point, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with this photo over the summer, and this winter over the break, I took a crack at it. I knew that I wanted to print this photo off, and I knew that I hated this photo right here. I did not want it to look like this, and that's where this last edit came into play. So there is some cloudy, like, pixelations in the clouds. I don't really know what that's from. They shouldn't be there. Same with the water. They're not there in the print, and when you export the photo and look at it, they're not there either, so I don't know why they're showing up. But that could just be the fact that I edited so much in this, and it was taken on a crop sensor camera. The downfall of using a crop sensor camera. Since then, I've upgraded to the Sony a7 III. Great camera. That's actually what I'm recording on now. The 35mm Sigma 1.4 art lens. It's amazing. It's everything that, you know, you would want as a photographer, and that's mainly what I use to take photos now. But let's get into this edit some. As you can tell, this light over here in the right side is completely gone. Can't see it. That looks so much better. It's not distracting. It's not taken away from the reflection or the sky, which it was definitely in the first two photos. Now moving on to the sky. The sky definitely has, the sky definitely has a blue tone. It's more aqua, less purple, not so dark. But as you know, as the sun goes down, you have darkness kind of creeping into the corner, and you know, naturally as the sun goes away, you know, the night kind of comes in, and that's why this top left corner is darker than the right side. I don't know if I you know, the kind of the same in the first two photos. But this photo, I didn't want it to be as drastic of a change. I just wanted it to be present. Now looking at the trees, I mean, again, the grain is off the charts right now, but the trees add something, but they're not there, and they're not taking up too much of the focus, right? You can't really tell. They're a little fuzzy purposefully. You don't want all of these tree limbs to take away the focus from the sunset or the lake. They were definitely doing that in the first photo, and that's something that I changed. How I changed that was I decreased the clarity and the texture. Decreasing the clarity just adds a softer feel overall. It also saturates the photo more. I don't know if I took some away. I didn't actually. Added some saturation and vibrance, but that's what clarity does. A lot of people do that for wedding photos, senior photos, um, sunset photos. I prefer doing that. If you go through all my edits and all my photos in the first 6 months that I had a camera, they were definitely edited to that first photo. They were dark. They were very over edited. Contrast was awful. Shadows they weren't like, they were good photos. They just weren't properly edited. So I have done something like this where I revisit some photos. But if you compare photos from the past 6 months to, or from almost a year ago to now, like, they've definitely changed. My photo taking style and my editing style has changed, and it's kind of what you want. I mean, looking through your past photos and looking into what you want to take now, you want to figure out, like, what needs to change, what can you change, what you like, what you don't like, and that's kind of how you grow and you learn. You look at your own stuff and then realize, man, like, I'm shooting all of my photos like this for Instagram, or this photo that I shot of a landscape really needs to be this, right? Small stuff you pick up. Obviously, that was a little more explanatory. When you're taking landscape, you want it to be horizontally, the camera to be more horizontal, but it's just small things like that you want to pick up. And after a year of having a camera, by no means am I a genius, don't know everything about photography, but that's one thing I learned, is that don't over edit and make things look dreamy when they need to look dreamy, and that's exactly what I did in this photo. Back to the photo. Like I said, aqua colors, less purple, more aqua. Definitely bringing in the shades of pink and purple that fade into yellow and orange where the sunset is. Blacked out all of the shadows so that you can just see that there's a tree line, that there's houses over here, and that there's grass, but you can't actually see the color and anything like definition. That's really what you want. You don't want anything to distract from the photo or the sunset and the reflection in this case. Now moving on to the edits I did, I don't think a couple spots here and there that I did in the heel. A lot of the other stuff I did in Photoshop. One thing that you'll notice is that there's a aerator in the lake, or in the pond. I wasn't smart enough to ask the person to turn it off, so it kind of looks like there's just a black hole in the middle of the lake if you really focus on it. In Photoshop, I did take away a lot of those black dots, make it cleaned up, but I wasn't really able to do much as it messed with the reflection. But moving on to my edits, as you can see, like, a lot more detailed, a lot more time was put into this. And then I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah. They're a lot more detailed, a lot more time was put in this photo. Purposefully, I wanted to change it, and I wanted to take the time, and that's really the difference between all of these, is that this first one just was kind of just slapped together, not really putting a whole lot of detail or attention into it. The second one was definitely better. As you can see, these edits over here, there's a lot more. And then going to this third one, the final edit, a lot more time was put into this, especially in Photoshop. You can't see those edits because Photoshop just is weird with how it transfers files over to Lightroom. Even if you edit straight from Lightroom into Photoshop. But a lot more detail and time was put into this, and it makes the photo. All the time you put into it, all the detail and attention to detail, really makes a photo. And if you want your photo to be great, instead of average, or if you want your photo to stick out, you need to put the time into it. You may not think it's a photo that deserves time, but if you really put time into it and you really think hard and figure out, what can I do to make this photo different? Is there anything that I can change to make it better? Show people, show your parents, friends, ask them for their input. And that's what I did for this photo. I showed it to a bunch of people. They said, hey, you know, yeah, it's great, but the trees are too textured, you know, the light is there. It's just really dark. It's really over edited. And so for this final edit, I took all of those things into account, put them together, edited with my new style, a little bit lighter, softer, not so harsh, and that's how I came up with this. I mean, it kind of speaks for itself. A lot of you may like it. A lot of you are like, dude, this is like just a basic sunset. I'm pretty proud of it. As my first photo ever, it's definitely not bad. If I were to retake it, there's definitely some things I would change. I would definitely make sure that I take this dock out. Again, I would have taken that out in Photoshop, but it just, the colors didn't combine well. I would have turned off the aeration, changed the angle a little bit more, and yeah, maybe had to taken it a little bit sooner so the sunset took up more of the screen. But there's not a whole lot you can do about that now unless you want to go and try to recreate this. And you know, I think that this is a good final edit, a good print. You know, and one of the best things about photography is actually getting your things printed. It's great looking at it, you know, on Lightroom, on a screen, on Instagram, on your website, but there's just something special about getting it printed. And I think that if you're a photographer and you're interested in pursuing photography and you have some things that you really like, you know, get them printed, right? It might cost $30 to print, you know, on vinyl or paper or whatever, but get them printed, hang them up in the wall. You know, you can really tell different things when they're printed. It's hard to explain, but there's just this look that it just looks so much better printed than it does on Lightroom on a digital screen, right? So as you can tell, I put my signature on there for later on in life when I'm a bajillionaire, because that's where I'm going. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and keep taking banger photos.